I know you guys have all been waiting for this. Here is my review for the Ahsoka finale. Here's my headline. Ahsoka finale is a non-stop train of contradictions and stupidity. I should have gone with train wreck there, but I think train works too. But let's get into this here. The episode begins with Thrawn being informed that his troops have located Ahsoka's position, despite Thrawn already knowing where Ahsoka was, given there was a massive battle and he chose to concede the field in the previous episode. So we've already started off with a complete contradiction. It doesn't make any sense. Makes Thrawn look like an idiot, and he doesn't really know what he's doing. It also sees Thrawn make the predictably stupid decision to have the Eye of Sion descend to the planet's surface instead of bringing the Chimera to it. This is utterly stupid, given it potentially allows Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine a chance to board the Star Destroyer. If he took the ship out into space, it foils any real hope of Ahsoka and her team stopping him, and then obviously it gets rid of the entire drama of the show that they wrote. And but that would make too much sense, right? Nevertheless, upon discovering this information, Thrawn dispatches two TIE fighters to attack. This points out how stupid Thrawn was in the previous episode, where he refused to have his gunships or starfighters attack Ahsoka's position on the ground. Why didn't he dispatch the TIE fighters previously? I mean, this guy is really stupid. They've really just done a number on this guy. He's not a threat. He's probably one of the dumbest villains I've seen coming out of Disney Star Wars. Next, Morgan Elsbeth gets a power boost. The Great Mothers perform some kind of dark ritual and summon a sort of talisman out of thin air. I think it's a little ridiculous. And yes, I understand they performed the same magic on Savage Opress in the Clone Wars. I think they did something with Asajj as well, and Darth Maul, or Maul, as they were calling him at that time, because I don't think he was practicing the Sith religion anymore, so he wasn't really a Darth. But I felt that was ridiculous too in the Clone Wars, and then this was just a little ridiculous that you can just I don't know. I don't really like it. Just casting magic to boost someone's power. I think that kind of takes away of the idea that the Force, becoming strong with the Force, is really about an individual kind of journey. And obviously there's talent. Certain characters have more talent for it. Obviously Anakin, Luke, but you can indeed still train and go through the process of doing that, and can obtain a limited amount of Force potential. Furthermore, the show does not even try to explain what kind of power boost it grants Elsbeth. We don't know if they granted her increased speed, strength, or anything like that. In fact, it doesn't look like she gets any of that, because she's still kind of going toe-to-toe with Ahsoka like she did, I guess, in Mandalorian Season 2. And we discover later on in the episode it doesn't really seem to provide her with any enhanced abilities. So I guess they just gave her a green glowing sword because it looks cool, and the show is now an RPG. Again, it looks like something out of World of Warcraft. You got the new green glowing sword from the dungeon boss, except that she didn't actually have to beat the dungeon boss to get the sword and the loot. She's just granted it out of thin air. I don't know. It's just kind of really stupid and just doesn't feel very Star Warsy to me. After this, the show cuts to Ezra Bridger attempting to create a lightsaber for himself. She gets it out of thin air. Ezra has to build the lightsaber. I guess there's some kind of dichotomy there that they wanted to show us. I don't know what it was, but maybe they were trying to do something there. But nevertheless, when Ezra is trying to build the lightsaber, I found it really bizarre. Given in the previous episode, he informed Sabine to keep his old lightsaber, and he didn't need one, and now he's all of a sudden is rummaging around this workbench trying to build the lightsaber. The whole point of it, as we find out here, as he goes about trying to construct his lightsaber, the robot Hugh Yang serves to recall Kanan Jarrus and provide some member berries for diehard Star Wars Rebels fans. So it's all about the member berries and the key jangling. Do you remember Kanan Jarrus? Because we're going to name drop him here, and that's pretty much all it is. It's for those Twitter 30-second reaction photos. Oh my gosh! They got Kanan! They finally mentioned Kanan! Which is just complete and utter fake. There's also some exposition about what happened between Sabine and Ahsoka, and how Ahsoka feared Sabine would fall to the dark side or become dangerous, given she believed she was pursuing the training out of a sense of revenge. That's how she originally stopped training Sabine in off camera, sometime between the end of Rebels and the beginning of this show. So I guess we get some of that. We don't even get it in a flashback, just some dialogue. Sabine and Ahsoka eventually confront each other, but the writing is atrocious. It's extremely ambiguous. There's no explicit forgiveness when Sabine says she's sorry. Ahsoka just tells her, I know. Oh, do you remember when Han and Leia did that? Yeah, okay. More member berries there. Ahsoka does not even provide Sabine with any real advice or correction. Rather, she just informs her that she understands her decision and will always be there for her no matter what. I just think that's absolute garbage and terrible storytelling. And it's kind of like that's the ideology that these people embrace. They don't actually believe that you can do anything wrong. Even if you do something wrong, it's like just listen to what we say. Like you see that in all of their kind of like the BLM talking points that they got. You need to just stand and listen, and they can't be corrected. It's just absolute garbage, and they're putting it into their shows now. Next, Ahsoka asks Sabine if she kept up with her training. The question is absurd, given she just informed Sabine she knew she was taken prisoner by Baylan Skoll, and the show made it abundantly clear she was not training. Nevertheless, Sabine responds that she indeed has been training and has gained more mastery of the lightsaber. When did she do that? We didn't see her doing any of that training whatsoever. We saw her training on the ship when she was with Ahsoka, but she had not been doing any training. She did not have her lightsaber. She was imprisoned by Baylan Skoll. Absolutely garbage, terrible storytelling. They don't even know what they're doing here. But the only reason for this is to justify what happens later on in the episode, which we'll get to. But again, she was literally doing no training. There was like that one time where she started training, and then that was when the Chimera was coming down. She actually wasn't even doing anything, and it was just the Chimera shaking the prison walls, making you think as the viewer that she was actually doing anything. And then you realize, oh, she wasn't. So just absolute garbage. There's some member berries in the dialogue with Sabine initially responding, I try. She then catches herself saying, I do. Oh, do you remember Yoda doing that? But again, she didn't even do it. She didn't try and she didn't do. Maybe she did in some deleted scenes or something, but not in what the show actually presented us. It did not happen. After Ahsoka tells Sabine to trust in the Force and train her body and her mind, the two TIE fighters show up and actually damage Ahsoka's ship. It's quite bizarre given the ship's shield should have been up to deflect some of the damage. It's also crazy that the ship even takes damage given previous attacks on it have never harmed it. The only time we actually saw the ship take any damage, and the ship didn't actually take any damage, it was only the ship's shields, was when they used the turbo lasers from the Eye of Sion when they were trying to scan the ship. And then when the World War I fighters started attacking, or World War II fighters, whatever, I think they're P-51, they look like P-51 Mustangs, started attacking. We literally see them do direct hits when the shields are down, when the ship doesn't have any power, and it does absolutely no damage. And Ahsoka's doing her absolutely ridiculous cartwheeling through space and chopping down the ships with her lightsaber. Just absolutely bizarre and stupid. So again, this is absolutely ridiculous too. Dumb. As noted above, this tactic also makes Thrawn look like a complete idiot for not deploying it in the last episode. He's even dumber this episode because he should just deploy his entire squadron and kill them off. Nevertheless, while the ship is damaged, Ahsoka and Ezra have to use the Force to keep it from crushing one of the Nodi people that they are still traveling with for some reason. I don't even know why they're traveling with these Nodi people still. It doesn't really make any sense. Why are they there? Who knows? Because they should have left them, said goodbye, and gone after Thrawn right away. But they're still in this caravan with these Nodi people. It doesn't really make any sense. And there's no dialogue to explain why they're still there with them. Sabine takes control of the ship and decides to use a variation of the Holdo maneuver to destroy the two TIE fighters. She rams both TIE fighters with the wings of the Jedi ship and destroys them both. It's laughably stupid. You can see a little bit of it there. She literally hits both TIE fighters because they're in this side-by-side formation, and it's just stupid. And there's one scene where the TIE fighter pilot sees the ship coming at him, and he literally doesn't take evasive maneuver. He doesn't try and move the ship out of the attack vector. Instead, he just puts his hands up, takes his hands up off, and then covers his face as he dies. It's just so absolutely stupid. After Thrawn is informed the two TIE fighters have been destroyed, he then issues orders to prepare for a ground assault, assuming the Jedi ship is down. Again, this makes no sense. Just deploy the Star Destroyer or the rest of your TIE fighters and kill them. The ground assault does indeed take place as Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine mount up on two Howlers and head off toward the Witch Fortress, the Night Sister Fortress. As they approach, Thrawn has the Chimera rain down hellfire upon them, but of course it's all pointless. There is no damage to Ahsoka, Sabine, and Ezra at all. They are easily able to enter the Fortress using their Force abilities. Oh, and Sabine can now use the Force rather easily, which completely undercuts the previous episode, or the previous idea that it takes long and intense training to do so if one does not have the necessary talent. That was the whole point of why that was there, and they completely undercut it. I actually like that. That was this is actually true to George Lucas. If you actually dedicate your entire life, you can gain a modicum of Force ability. But it takes an entire lifetime of dedication to get that. You don't just get it all of a sudden like Sabine now does in this episode. But this is just to prepare you for what she's going to do later on. Like, she has absolutely zero, like, really low force potential. She should only be able to be doing small little things, but she should still be able to kind of like tap into the force. It's very similar to what we saw in Rogue One with Donnie Yen's character. He didn't have a lot of force potential, but when the time came, he was able to trust in the force, and the force protected him, guided him, redirected those blaster bolts, and he was able to get there and do that. And that's kind of what Sabine should have. It's like in these like extreme moments is when should be able to like kind of tap into it, and it shouldn't be like these massive abilities that other more talented Jedi who have more talent for it have. So, moving on, neither of the Howlers panic as the impacts of the battery blast all around them. One would think they might, given the one Howler, 2 episodes ago, immediately panicked after Sabine was ambushed by those other nomads previously. Just another contradiction that you should ignore. I mean, these are now trained war mounts going off into the battle. This no longer is that dog a scaredy cat who's just going to run away after a couple laser blasts. This is literally, they have no problems running through a bombardment from an Imperial Star Destroyer. After they enter the fortress, numerous night troopers head them off, but they are basically red shirts from Star Trek and are easy fodder for Ahsoka, Ezra, and Sabine. The Night Sisters do make things a little more difficult as they perform a ritual that turns the troopers into zombies that keep coming. This forces Ezra, Sabine, and Ahsoka to flee up the fortress to the docking point. There's some really bad choreography here. This just looks absolutely terrible. I think they didn't even film this together. They like cut them in, and it just looks really bad and stale and static. It doesn't really look very fluid or active, and you can tell it's like filmed in the volume, and there's like X's in front of them, and they just kind of got rid of that because they don't like, there's no like lateral movement or anything like that. And it just looked really bad. Meanwhile, the ship has now been connected to the Eye of Sion. The Chimera, Elspeth informs Thrawn, but instead of moving the ship outside of the planet's atmosphere, he instructs Elspeth to commit suicide in order to delay the Jedi, who somehow still have a chance of boarding the ship. I mean, again, she's literally informing Thrawn, hey, we're connected, let's go. Thrawn's like, yo, you need to die. Go out there and die, even though the ship is good to go and we can go, and they're not even on the ship yet, but get out there and die. It's so stupid. It's just so dumb. And then it's even dumber because Thrawn is like, yeah, those guys are there. Let's just blast the entire fortress to smithereens too. Why didn't you just do that in the first place, right? I don't even know. Like, why would you need to be docked on the fortress to then dock with the Eye of Sion? I think you could be able to do it in space. It didn't seem like you needed to actually be docked on the fortress. There's no explanation for that. Headcanon is the only thing that would kind of prevent that. So, again, it's just stupid and just really undercuts Thrawn. And you should have done that in the first place. Like I said, just blow up the fortress. You don't need it anymore, and you've already destroyed their, like, you're going off the assumption that you've taken down their ship, made it, you've impaired it. It can't fly anymore. So the only way they can get to you is a ground assault. We'll take that away and just blow it up in the first place instead of letting them get in there and get to the roof so they can get there. It's really just, it's stupid. Regardless, Elspeth confronts Ahsoka, Sabine, and Bridger instead of trying to stop Sabine and Bridger. Like, her whole objective, delay them. She literally, like, decides to, like, walk into the middle of the room and confront Ahsoka and lets Ezra and Sabine walk around her and go up the stairs. I mean, talk about stupid. So she chooses to engage Ahsoka in one-on-one combat, completely ignoring the order she's given. Again, it's really stupid. As Elspeth engages Ahsoka, Sabine and Ezra climb the fortress and are engaged by 2 super Dark Knight troopers. For lack of a better term, they appear to have Beskar armor as it deflects a lightsaber stroke. And they're already zombies for whatever reason, but they hadn't been killed before, so I don't know. It doesn't really make sense, right? I guess you just gotta accept that. Don't ask questions. Consume product. The troopers appear to get the best of both Sabine and Bridger. One is about to kill Sabine until she uses the Force to pull her lightsaber towards her. That's right, Sabine is fully Force capable now. Just throw everything about training and hard work out the window. Oh, that's right, they told us Sabine had been training, yet didn't show it. So I guess you should believe the exposition rather than what was actually shown. Again, atrocious writing all around. She literally gets the lightsaber, shoves it through the guy's helmet. It doesn't really make any sense because it shouldn't have been able to pierce the helmet, as we literally saw the lightsaber get deflected from the Beskar armor. One would assume that the helmet was Beskar as well. Ezra is also getting beat up by the other trooper, mainly because he doesn't just use the Force and push him off the edge. He eventually kills his trooper by slicing its head clean off. At least that kill made more sense, as there is a gap in the armor. However, given the Night Sister magic, those two troopers should have continued to fight as was previously depicted. So we saw the zombies just kind of getting back up after they've been sliced and constantly being fighting, and these ones just kind of die after they're killed. They should have gotten back up and continued to be a danger, even a headless one. The show then cuts to the zombie night troopers storming Ahsoka. Elsbeth decides to then disengage and just watches as the night troopers drive Ahsoka towards the ship, something she is supposed to prevent from happening. That's right, they are now driving Ahsoka towards the thing she's supposed to stop her from getting to. It's so stupid, so stupid. As the Chimera is heading into space, Sabine convinces Ezra to make a jump, and she'll use the Force to push him the rest of the way. It works because Sabine is no longer the least Force-sensitive Jedi at all anymore, apparently. I mean, she literally, like, throws him, like, 40 feet into the air. As this is happening, Ahsoka is surrounded by the Night Troopers, who decide to stop attacking. Look at that. They're not firing their blasters at all anymore. I mean, this guy in the background here has his gun in like a ready position. He doesn't even have it aimed at Ahsoka. I mean, this is absolutely stupid. So there's no dialogue explanation for this. It just happens and it makes no sense. It's like, okay, blast them to bits. Like, we saw this happen in the Revenge of the Sith. The stormtroopers surrounded the Jedi and killed them with overwhelming numbers. Like, just kill her off. But we can't kill Ahsoka yet. Sabine, who the audience is supposed to believe also made the jump onto the Chimera, actually didn't. I mean, there's literally a cut where she looks at Ahsoka, is about to go run off, and the idea is like Ezra's going to force pull her up after she does a force jump, but she didn't actually do that. So while all of this is happening, like while Ahsoka is fighting Elsbeth, the stormtroopers have her surrounded and are just kind of looking on. Sabine has apparently just been hiding behind one of these like statues or rocks there. It's really stupid. As Ahsoka's about to like get waxed by Elsbeth, she then jumps out of hiding, and then the Night Troopers decide to start attacking again. So, fighting ensues with Elsbeth instructing the zombies to kill Sabine and she re-engaged with Ahsoka. For some reason, the zombies are no longer coming back to life as they previously did. I guess they need to stay dead now. That's what the plot dictated, so that's what they are. Ahsoka eventually kills Elsbeth. With Elsbeth dead, Thrawn orders a bombardment on the fortress. Ahsoka and Sabine run off the tower and jump onto their ship, which has been repaired. Shocking. A brief chase occurs with Ahsoka trying to track down the Star Destroyer. It fails, with Thrawn informing her thus. The series concludes with Ahsoka and Sabine returning to the Nodi, or the Hermit Crab people. Shin Hati briefly shows up and appears to take control of one of the Nomad tribes by raising her lightsaber over her head. I don't know why she's doing that. Why wouldn't she go and try and find Baylan or whatever? Again, the Baylan and Shin Hati story has been completely contradicted, and they just threw it away on whatever they were clearly doing in like episode 4 or whatever. I don't know. We had 8 episodes, I think. So episode 6, whatever they're doing with episode 6 with Baylan and Shin, they threw it away in episode 7, told her to join the Empire, and now she's gonna like lead these nomads. It's just ridiculous. Baylan Skoll gets a brief cameo as he stands atop a statue of the Father from the Mortis trilogy arc, a super obscure arc from Star Wars The Clone Wars. There's like a 3-episode thing. I think it really muddies the water on what the Force is and a lot of that stuff. And I thought it was actually, when you actually go back and watch it, it's really, really poor storytelling. It might even be worse than this series when you actually kind of look at it. So getting something like this from Dave Filoni shouldn't be a surprise, given we were getting that from him a decade ago. And then he sees a beam of light in the distance. Who knows what that could be? I know people are speculating there's some kind of like mother creature out there. I'm unfamiliar with that character, and they never talk about it in the Mortis arc. I'd have to go and do some research onto that. Thrawn's forces arrive at Dathomir. Ezra Bridger has seemingly commandeered a transport and arrives at the Home 1 ship. For whatever reason, he's still wearing a Night Trooper armor, but eventually removes his helmet and greets Hera and Chopper. So he goes out of his way to steal an Imperial transport ship. Is just like cruising around in the Night Trooper armor, is literally arriving at Home 1, gets off the ship. Hera and all of these New Republic soldiers have their weapons drawn on him, and he's just like, oh, look, it's me. It's Ezra. I'm back, as he takes off his helmet. Like, they only did that for the helmet reveal. It makes absolutely no sense and is just cringe. Finally, the Force Ghost of Anakin Skywalker looks over Ahsoka and Sabine and the Noti tribe. He doesn't communicate with them at all, though. He's just shown watching them. It's just really weird. It's literally like, oh, here's a cameo, key jangle, member berries, yada, yada, yada. There it is right there. He's just like looking over at them. And then he's wearing these like black dark robes too. He's not even wearing the white robes that George Lucas gave in like the special editions for Return of the Jedi. So overall, this episode was terrible. Sure, there's a lot of action scenes that might please some fans, but none of it really makes a whole lot of sense. And a lot of it is quite insulting to your intelligence. I think mine definitely was insulting to my intelligence. What the show does is really make Thrawn out to be a complete and utter buffoon who really is not a threat to the New Republic, or he shouldn't be by what we've seen. On top of that, it does not address any of Baylan Skoll's story or even really hint at what his aims are, let alone what the Great Mothers have planned or why they're even working with Thrawn or anything like that. I mean, this is just a whole lot of nothing, and I think the whole season was a whole lot of nothing. And I just think that Star Wars is just a commercial for more Star Wars at this point. They're not actually telling interesting and compelling stories in and of themselves, which I think George Lucas did indeed do, especially in that original trilogy, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. And then I actually think, for as much as you want to criticize him for, he had actually really good concepts for the prequels. And I think there is plenty of room to criticize those films. But at least there was like really good, solid concepts in there. There was obviously that overarching arc of Anakin falling to the dark side. I think it could have been a lot better. I think you probably should have started maybe more with Hayden Christensen instead of having that little child Anakin and all that kind of stuff in Phantom Menace. And then obviously having the rise of Sidious and stuff like that. And that's stuff that he had planned going back into the 80s and stuff like that. If you go back and look at some of the stuff he said at the Revenge of the Jedi story conference before they decided to rename it Return of the Jedi. So, yeah. But this just, it's nothing. There's no soul here. There's no heart. There's no deeper meaning. It's just an insult. It's all terrible. At least with The Mandalorian, there were some interesting concepts that Favreau was coming out with the Mandalorian stuff. But it just wasn't executed really well, which I think is very similar to the prequels. Whereas this here, I mean, the execution was terrible. The underlying story is terrible. There's just nothing here. There's no deeper meaning. There's nothing to it. It's all just superficial flash, and it just sucks. And again, the last thing I can say is it truly is an insult to your intelligence to watch this stuff.
Subscribe for more.